I heard Ys8 Lacrimosa of Donna was a classic to some people, and I'd like to give my thoughts and criticisms on it after some hours of playing it. As you can tell by the title, there's a bit more to it than that. First playing Ys8, it introduced to you many systems and pages jammed into each other without slowly explaining them through gameplay. But before I get all into that, you begin on a ship working patrol to pay off your fine of being on the ship. I'd prefer to skip this part since the pacing is terrible, with you having to walk back and forth as a patrol, and having oddly long cutscenes and dialogue sequences. It just feels so strange. I can't tell if it's the lack of but still present facial animations, or if it's just because the cutscene-esque look of things while barely using any sort of cinematic cuts and without voice acting is throwing me off. Anyways, your ship crashes, and you end up stranded having to pick up new teammates and people who you aid in the journey. The most notable one that you pick up is your first, which doesn't set the best tone for the rest of the game. Here's why. To go over combat, you'll notice it's like Dark Souls. Actually, it's more like a fast-paced hack and slash. But enemies do have a set attack sequence, and your roll isn't half bad. You can always switch characters to do enemy weaknesses, which breaks them for more damage. For example, Slash can break soft enemies, while Pierce aerial enemies, and Strike armored enemies. Combat, a lot of the times, has the problem that Dark Souls has, which is sometimes getting one hit in will win you the encounter, especially if you're an anime guy who can use a bunch of easily reloadable skills and spam attacks. If you charge enough by attacking, you can use the super move. After waiting a bit, there's also a mechanic that lets you charge your attack move, so now you can save a couple of clicks when making the enemies get out of your way. Another thing to add is that you can do rising attacks while in the air, and attacks while you're lowering. The main reason I bring this up is because it shows how floaty this game is. Being in the air for so long just feels strange even though it's a regular jump. Making a lot of jump attacks can punish you easily since you are so slow at landing you might get hit from an enemy attack that isn't even planning to come out yet. The reason I say get out of your way for the enemies is because Lacrimosa of Donna seems to want to be speedrun. That's actually how I feel. These easy enemies are everywhere, and level design is most of the time extremely simple, so much so that load times can be extremely close to each other, which aid in helping environments not feel real. I also hate the fact that literal bunny hopping is faster than sprinting since it gives you a boost. I pretty much have to do this to traverse the map this way now, which I hope I don't have to explain why that feels annoying. Some map parts at least have chests scattered around them and resources you will need towards your medicine or supplies. And I do think that the fact the game includes fast travel is a needed addition which they gladly have. Boss fights are actually HP sponges, and have a couple of easily dodgeable moves. So much so that my mom can beat the bosses easily. Most of the time, in the bosses, you will take damage. Not because they are difficult, but because there is an infinite advantage in healing mid-game instantly like Breath of the Wild and ignoring all of the combat moves the boss has, like a speedrun. The most offensive thing Lacrimosa does is introduce raids, which are waves of enemies that in the first raid at least are painfully easy and extremely slow, especially you having to see how your other raid team performed. I think this addition serves no use and just adds extra seconds to every scene, and it's just really odd. I don't know why you would add that. Just to hammer this in, I've never felt things moving so slow in dialogue sequences and general explanations of systems while playing any game. It now often makes me mad sitting through any sort of extra dialogue because of how bad it is. As for characters, though they will contribute to your camp and make differences like repairing and providing medicine, the characters in your party badly interact with each other. It's so awkward and sounds forced, which is also paired by the on and off voice acting.
Let's get off this island alive!
Hear, hear!
I'm really sad in saying all these negatives, since the beginning music and dreams that your main character has will of course lead up to more story plots. That does interest me, but all the other negatives don't give it any favors. Having said that, those are my general thoughts on Ys8 so far. So, subscribe if you want to hear more of my thoughts on games, and see you next time.